Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 5 of my JavaScript video tutorial. Today I'm going to focus a lot on the document object model because I've received a ton of questions from you guys. I'm going to go over a small bit of code, but I'm going to do it in ultra detail so that you totally get it. Now, to understand this code, you have to understand what the document object model is. The DOM, as I'm going to refer to it from now on, allows you to access all of the different objects that lie within your HTML code. Every web page is considered to be of the document object, and every tag is referred to as a node inside of the DOM. JavaScript can be used to manipulate all of these elements, whether they lie between tags or they do not. However, it's better to have them lie between tags, by simply referring to them as their identification name. And that is the way I prefer to do it. What you also have to understand is the parent-child relationship, which I have here on the screen in kind of a mangled format. But basically you can think of the document being the parent and all other elements that lie within it to be children of the parent document. Also, if you created a div element inside of your web page and then you had children elements like maybe bold tags and so forth inside of it, those would be the children of the parent div. So hopefully you understand that, and you then can refer to all of the different child elements inside of this parent element in numerous different ways. However, I prefer giving this child element an ID name and then referring to it as that. However, in this tutorial, you're going to see a bunch of different ways to refer to those different guys. First, what I'm going to do here though, and this is just basic, everything you've seen in all of the previous tutorials, and I have a link to the previous tutorial in which I went into how to manipulate the DOM using IDs. I'm again going to do that here, but I'm going to show you a bunch of other different things along the way. I'm going to create a span, which is sort of like an inline div, and I'm going to call it span EX, and I'm going to say on click, I'm going to want to call a function called edit node text. And I'm going to pass along two properties. One's going to be span EX, which is the name of this ID. And I'm also going to pass along new text is here. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to force this new text to appear inside of this span whenever somebody clicks on it. And I'm going to change this text inside of here, and then a nice break tag. And that is all that I'm going to put down inside of the body of this program. Now I'm going to create the actual function called edit node text, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what I'm doing here. So I'm going to jump up inside of here, and I'm going to create the function, and it's going to be called edit node text, and I'm going to create two parameters it's going to accept, and they're going to be those two guys right there. And now I'm going to create a reference to a node that's going to lie inside of this document, and I'm going to call it node, and I'm going to refer to this span down here by saying document, which is referring to the web page itself, and this is the shortcut way to gain access to that. I'm going to use the function getElementById, and I'm going to use the ID that was passed to this guy. This is going to allow me to continually refer to this span item down here, just simply by referring to node. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, wow, there are children inside of this span down here. I want them removed. So I'm going to call the remove child function on node first child. So this is going to jump through this span element and remove all of the elements that lie within it, all of the children elements that lie within it. Like I said, I'm going to show you additional things. Then, after that guy is all cleared up, I'm going to call append child, which is another JavaScript function. And I'm also going to call create text node, because if you want to insert text inside of another node that lies inside of HTML or the document object model itself, you have to call this create text node function. And I'm going to say I want the text that they passed along to be included into it. You just have to understand that not only is a tag considered a node, but any blocks of text within it are also considered nodes, whether they have an identification number assigned to them or not. So that is some pretty simple code that we have here. And if you look here on the right side of the screen, you'll see change this text, which is what I have there originally. But you're going to see that this is going to be changed to new text is here by calling this function up here simply when I click on it. And there it is. It changed. So that is how you would delete the text node that was originally inside of there, which is here. You would do that with these two lines of code right there. And then this is how you would also add this new text inside of there, okay? Now, you could also do numerous other different things with this guy. So you could also go document, get element by ID, and then the identification number assigned to that span node, and then change the styling like I showed you previously. Like let's say we want it to be red, and you can use any of the different CSS properties that are available. And I'm just going to copy this right up to that point, paste that in there, and let's be wacky and let's change a whole bunch of them. I'm also going to change positioning to fixed, and I'm also, now that I have it fixed positioning, I need to tell it where to position itself. I'm going to say 100 pixels from the top of the screen, and I'm also going to say 300 pixels from the left side of the screen. So I can change all those different things. If I jump, reload it, it actually doesn't appear on the screen because it's over on the other side here. But if I drag this guy out, you'll see it shows up right there. New text is here. So, and the text is red and it's positioned in a weird position. So those are all the weird little things you can do with this guy. And now to show you some other different things, just so you get acquainted with the other different functions that are available for manipulating the DOM inside of JavaScript, I'm going to create a div element down here, and this div element is going to have an identification number of div ex, and I'm going to say on click, and I'm just going to call a different function that I'm going to create, and as I create it, of course, I'm going to explain what it is all doing. And here I'm going to say div ex so that it knows the identification number, and I'm going to say new text in div. Then I'm going to throw some children elements inside of here and close off the div. Now I have to create this guy here, the edit node text function. I'm going to show you some of the more complicated ways to edit this code, and then you're going to understand why I like to use ID numbers to manipulate stuff instead of paying specific attention to children and so forth and so on. So I have to create function, edit, ID, and here again, I'm going to copy this up here. Call this node, right like that. And let's say that I decide that I want to change a value in the first child of this div element. That's exactly how I would do it. And then I could simply come in here and say node and change the value for it with node value equal to new text. And you can see here that when I clicked on that, I click on anywhere inside of this div, you can see that new text in div showed up right there in the position of the first child. That's why it shows up before some bold text. Some bold text is the first child inside of it. And you could also do last child, right like that, reload it, and now new text in div shows up in the last position inside of this div. I could also willy-nilly delete these different little guys inside of here by referring to them. Like for example, if I come in here after node and say remove child, and then say node dot child nodes index of 0, file save. And you can see that the bold deleted because that was the 0 index for that div. Change that to 2, reload. And you can see in this situation what it actually deleted was the break statement. If you scroll down here, by plugging 2 inside of there, it knocked the break statement out of it. And you're more than welcome to download this code. There's a link in the underbar to play around with these different ways to manipulate these different guys. But I'm also going to come in here, change that back to 0 just for the heck of it. And I'm going to pay reference to the child node in the second index position. And I'm going to say that a node value should be equal to new text. And what the heck, why don't I show you how to create a new tag element inside of here. Call it new node. It's equal to document dot. And in this situation, you call create element. If you want to insert, for example, like a horizontal rule, and then you have to come in here and say node dot append child and call new node for the guy that you just created, and this is going to create this new child node for the horizontal role, and this one's going to actually insert it. And you can see there's the horizontal role, and you can also see here where I placed this new text in the second index area within this div. See right there, new text in div, right like that. I actually clicked on it, which is causing additional horizontal rules to actually keep popping up. And the text is changing because as I'm doing this, it's changing the value of this child right here. So that's the reason why you're getting sort of wacky results right there. And of course, if you'd like to create a text node that you want to insert inside of here, instead of using the create element, you're going to use something called create text node. So I'm going to create something called random text node is equal to document dot create text node. Let's just say, and then if I want to actually insert it, I need to call, again, the append child function and text node inside of it. So the takeaway here is if you want to insert some sort of element like a horizontal row or some other type of tag, you would use the create element to define which element you want to put inside of there or which tag. And if you want to insert a text node, you would first create it with the create text node function inside of JavaScript. And in both situations, you would actually insert the new node by calling the function called append node and then putting the name of it inside of there. And you can see I'm random, gets shot in there. Again, if you want to define what order you want it to be placed inside of there, you're going to have to use child nodes and then put an index value inside of it. Or, of course, you could choose to use first child or last child. So there is what I hope is a better explanation of exactly how the document object model works. It can get confusing, but I don't think it's confusing at all if you just refer to everything using IDs. This part, yes, can get confusing, and you definitely wouldn't want to base a very, very large project on using functions such as this, because as you saw previously with how things are changing based off of me clicking and child nodes are changing and so forth and so on. But it is good to know these functions exist in case you do need them. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Otherwise, till next time.